So, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar. So, we will start the class now. We have three more units left. Growing role of civil society organizations,
Ah,
conflict resolution, how it is done at the international level, at the national level, and at the organizational level. Third is ethics in public administration. Now, this unit 9 and unit 21 is very, very important. The way the questions are asked, so naturally, you will get questions from every unit. But uh, you will get questions from every unit. But I think the long questions that you are expecting or the short notes that you are expecting, you will get those from unit 19 and unit 21 positively. Now, unit 19 is a very interesting chapter, that is civil society. Civil society means Nagarika Samaj. So people who are living in the society, are they not citizens that we are calling them a civil society? Are they not, previously when people were living in society, was it not a civil society? Or should we call the civil society a civilized society? So naturally, when you hear me, you will find that. Am I audible?
yes, ma'am.
So when you hear me, you will find that uh, the concept of civil society has gradually developed, which indicates some meaning like civilized society. Or you can say where the members of the society develop a feeling of citizenship and feel like and start engaging in community activities or protest activities. You can call it a civil society. Like if a society where people are engaged in active active politics means all the time is thinking of bringing social change and engaging with governance by appreciating the government for its legislations at times, or by criticizing the government uh, in some other time. With the advent of the globalization discourse, what you find is that With the advent of the globalization discourse, uh, the situation is like this, that if globalization is talking about the withdrawal of the state, if globalization is talking about minimizing the state role, if globalization is talking about uh, uh, participatory governance, so naturally, it is reinforcing the role of citizens or civil society in the management of many economic areas. So, therefore, many have said that if government is called as the state actor, or the bureaucracy or the public officials, we may call them as state actors. Private sector is the second sector. Then civil society, you may call it as the third sector. That means the civil society and the private sector, they are non-state actors. But there is a difference between their goal, because private sector will aim at particular interest, whereas civil society will aim at a community interest or a collective goal. So that this is the difference between the second sector and the third sector. Both of them are non-state actors. Remember, in the society we have state actors like the bureaucracy. We have even the political leaders who are in the ruling party. They are also state actors. Uh, those who are members of parliament, they are also state actors. Those who are doing business, they are non-state actors, but their interest is to satisfy their particular interest, to work towards their particular interest. Civil society is the another sector which is also a non-state actor, but is working for a collective goal, or bringing social and economic change, you can call this as. So what you find is that civil society is distinctly different from the state sphere, or the political sphere, or the market sphere, because we will not consider political parties as a part of the civil society, because political parties are working towards their particular interest. If you consider them as a personality, they are interested in capturing political power. So civil society is not engaged in working for capturing political power. So remember the difference between political party and the civil society. Civil society is working for the better well-being of a collectivity, or fulfillment of a collective goal. So you can call this civil society as the social capital of a country. As the social capital of a country, this word was coined by Robert Putnam, who said that the network of organizations which help to draft better policies, which influence policy making, which provide legitimacy for the state, which work for the collective goal. They are the social capital. They are not the monetary capital of the state. They are or the society. They are actually the social capital, because there is a close bond among the citizens who work for the collective goal. So, in a sense, you can call them as the social capital of the country, network of organizations, the third party sector, non profit organizations, voluntary organizations, civil society based organizations, non governmental organizations, or independent advocacy groups. You might have some groups who are not registered at all. NGOs are registered bodies under Society Registration Act. But some citizens come together. They do not register their body, but they come together and work for the betterment of the people, and they interact with the state as a non-state actor. Now, you call these groups as independent advocacy groups. So I hope you understand now. So civil society in common parlance refers to networks or relationships of those groups that are not organized or managed by the state. So how this concept of civil society came into being? You know, the Aristotle, the father of political science, he also talked about civil society. But for him, civil society was a political society. Civil society was state. In Greek society, in the writings of Greek philosophers, you will not find any difference in the concept of society and state. You will not find any difference. Whether it is a civil society or a political society or a state, these words are used interchangeably. Gradually, we noticed a difference in the writings of John Locke. I had told you John Locke in 17th century, who was an English philosopher and a contractualist. Contractualist means who said that state is man-made, state is the result of a social contract. So because what is the result of the social contract? The result of the social contract is the mm, establishment of state. You can call it as a civil society. The f- and this first stage of the contract is non-revocable. And again, the people enter into a contract with the government and assign and delegate their power to interpret law, the power to make law, the power to give punishment, or a common interpreter of law to some other body, that is the state, or you can call it as a government. And the second contract is revocable in the sense that if the government doesn't work properly, John Locke advises the people to resist against such a government and withdraw the support, withdraw the consent from that government. So the first stage of contract is actually a, no, a contract for creating a civil society or a state. So basically, what you find later on when we have a Marxist perspective of the state, what we what type of sense do we get? What type of understanding do we get? That this contract is actually whether this is the contract uh, told by John Locke, or whether this is the contract between the king and the protesters in Great Britain, who forced the king to sign the Magna Carta, the Charter of Liberty, in 1215. So naturally, in 1215, the society was not a society of equals. The society was divided based on ownership of property. So basically, the people who were fighting with the king for more freedom, they were the middle class, the less wealthy class, the non-nobility class. You can call it in a Marxist sense as bourgeois. So this is the uh, a self-conscious, self-confident bourgeois class was known as civil society in the Marxist perspective of the state. If we try to interpret in terms of the Marxist methodology, we will find that this Civil society was nothing but a self conscious, self confident bourgeois class known as civil society. So, to these classical philosophers, to these classical liberal philosophers, to be a member of civil society was to be a citizen, a member of the state. So, what you find is that civil society is a European phenomenon. It emerged in Europe. People use this word, and later on, you find that they, these non-political forces uh, associated with complex these non-political forces were at work in the 18th century to establish a popular assembly. That was in France. That is the result of French Revolution. So, you find, and also you can call that these groups or this such a civil society was instrumental in establishing the ombudsman in 1809 in Sweden. So, basically, it is said that civil society, the concept of civil society, is a European phenomenon. But however, when we are talking about civil society, we must bring the German philosopher Hegel here, who was the predecessor of Karl Marx and who influenced Karl Marx to the highest extent that Karl Marx turned Hegel upside down and framed his philosophy. Now Hegel said, when the ideas, the spirit, or you can say the Geist, or you can say the supernatural, is trying to realize itself through human history, through human activity. Civil society just is a phase in this process of evolution. So civil society means particular interest taken together form the collective interest. It is not talking about universalism. So Hegel thinks that state is a higher version of civil society. When people ultimately get the collective interest, ultimately become, uh, they get satisfaction in other regarding actions, then you can say that a state has been established. So state is the highest, Ma- the embodiment of spirit. State is the march of God on earth. So state reflects universalism, whereas civil society reflects particular hyphen universalism. That means particular interest taken together form the collective interest. It cannot be called as the universal interest. That means those who are having like minded demands or like minded ideas, they come together, join hands, and protest. So this is you can call it as a civil society to Hegel. Gramsci, who was a Marxist scholar, Gramsci isolated civil society as a category of importance in its own right. Gramsci characterized civil society as the realm of culture and ideology, and more concretely as the associational realm. That means at the level of culture and ideology, that means in the name of Islam, you come together. In the name of Christianity, you come together. In the name of Hindutva, you come together. So this is how you form a network of organizations who believe, who are having the similar ideology. So, various schools of thought have defined civil society. Definitions differ. We will not get into those. There is no time to discuss about all these things. You can just call like the liberal theory. I can compile them and say that the liberal theorists considered civil society to be a necessary condition for democratic states. Unless and until you have a civil society, democracy cannot survive. For the Marxist, civil society is that which is intolerant of any type of exploitation, which desires the well being of all. If you have this neoliberal ideology or the globalization discourse, it tells that participatory governance is a participatory democracy where you engage people in formulating policies. You adopt a bottom up approach. So basically, you are reinforcing participatory governance. So governance means allowing the people to decide, to make choices what is good for them. So state is there just to remember, this is the main idea of globalization or neoliberalism. State is there just to facilitate the process or is an enabler to empower the people to make right choices, what is good for them. That is the work of the state. Other things will be decided by the state, by the civil society. So the work of the state is to sensitize people, to enhance their awareness, to enhance their social and political consciousness. Even today, in terms of economics, you can call that. We are talking about financial literacy, so economic consciousness of the people. Government is slowing down government is reducing the interest rate on FDs and encouraging you to invest your funds in invest your money in mutual funds, in stock exchange. So why is it so? It is because state is the enabler. It will make you politically, socially, and economically conscious to make choices. So the work of the state is to empower the citizens. So this is the relationship between uh, state, market, and civil society. So society enters into relationship with the state, and when the society enters into relationship with the state and engages in policy making, you can call it as a civil society. This is what is called by Nira Chandok, the Indian political scientist. Okay. Today non-governmental organizations are there within the state who have started looking beyond their local and regional roles, have become increasingly adept to come together for common purpose. Like non-governmental organizations are there at the national level, at the local level, at the regional level to uh, develop a policy for migrant workers, to develop a policy for domestic workers, or for that matter, organizations are coming together to develop a policy to reduce maternal mortality or maternal and child health. Now, organizations are coming together, forming networks for common purposes. They pool resources, coordinate their actions, and strengthen their presence felt in international deliberations on a range of global issues. When they do so, you can call this phenomenon as international uh, civil society. It's a larger framework where people from all countries come together to work for climate change, to work for disabled, to uh, to alleviate poverty, to eradicate child labor, saying that these are not human rights, these are human rights violations. Okay? So, therefore, civil society has been termed as the third sector, which is neither business nor state, but occupied by citizens who take actions responsive to civil society. So, do we really need? I have already told you about the social capital concept given by Robert Putnam. That is there in the contemporary context of civil society. You can go through that. And do we really need a civil society for governance and development? It is not philosophers who are saying so. Even international organizations like International Monetary Fund, World Bank is also promoting this idea that people must participate in governance, the process of governance, and democracy should be broad based. Then only if democracy is broad based, if civil society is very active and alert and conscious, uh, in such a scenario, even if you have globalization, even if you have the domination of the market cannot exploit the people. That is what they say. Market cannot exploit the people. It may be true because today we have e-commerce, but immediately, uh, I have the experience of many cases. All youngsters are doing so. If any company, if they are cheated by any company, immediately they try to take a strong stand against the company. If the company does not respond, the youngsters use the social media as instrument to damage their reputation. So if you just give this threat, or if you start writing this in social media, one post is enough to bring the company onto the right track. So this is also in the sense that the civil society, a conscious citizens, there is no harm if the citizens are educated, if the citizens have literacy, in true sense of the term, digital literacy, then e-commerce will not be able to uh, make them fools. So that is what is understood. So, what are the challenges before the civil society? You can think over them. In the name of civil society, sometimes people may get swayed away by narrow interests. So that is actually, the threat. Sometimes very fundamentalist. Suppose we do not like these non-secular activities like Islamic fundamentalism, or the work of the Christian, the missionaries, or the Hindutva agenda. If we do not like this also, but peop civil society Now, religion is such a delicate matter that civil society is much more influenced by these cultural issues. So that can divide or destroy the uh, uh, national unity of a country, cohesiveness of a society. Okay, so this is you read more about civil society, you will be able to understand it. Civil society is a must question. You must take note of it. Then we will go to Unit 20, redefinition of conflict resolution. So, what is, in any human society, conflict is a natural occurrence, you can say. It's a natural process in any human relationship. Now, why conflicts occur? Because gradually, when we grow up, we have, we develop different ideas, we develop different mental framework, and we become more and more convinced about our understanding, and conflict of ideas result in social conflict. Actually, that is the true thing. Conflict of ideas result in social conflict. We believe in something, and as we grow up, as we mature by age, we insist on the thing that what we feel is correct, what I know is correct. So that actually results in conflict between individuals, between groups, and between nations. Everywhere we think so. Like India and Pakistan. Pakistan the, thinks that the leaders of Pakistan thinks that Kashmir is ours. We think that Kashmir is ours. So it is a this understanding has developed conflict between these two nations, and we at no point of time reaching at a meeting point. So that conflict continues forever. What is required for a better society is conflict resolution. For a better world is conflict resolutions. So conflicts, these conflicts, you might have today conflicts at workplace. You might have today uh, political conflicts. You might have today military conflicts. Military conflicts. Okay. So what you find is that we can discuss about the uh, we can discuss about the intra-organizational conflict, the conflicts that we have within an organization. Towards the end, in the beginning of 20th century, thinkers realized that thinkers realized that कौन शब्द होचे इनका please mute yourself everybody please mute yourself everybody so what you find is that there are different dimensions of conflict. Potential conflicts always remain dimensions of a territory. Like we have on Kashmir, like Israel and Palestine. Uh, whether the boundaries are physical or social or war boundaries. When there is threat to values, goals, or policies, then also we have conflict. So, philosopher in public administration was there in 1940s. In fact, she has a lady philosopher. She had many new ideas, and in 1941 she died. But however, in 1930s she no, her ideas were in gestation period, and she had jotted down those ideas, and later on those ideas were um, edited, compiled and published. The philosopher is Mary Parker Follett, an American political scientist who wrote a lot about conflict. She said, you know, conflict is always not bad. She gave an example of a violin. When you rub one string over the other, a beautiful sound comes if you know how to do the rubbing. If you do not know how to do the rubbing, then the sound is not soothing to your ears. So therefore she said that we have to manage conflict. So she said if you are dominating, if there is one dominant party and others remain silent, so uh, you know conflict resolution happens. But the dominated party at some point of time will raise their head. Undoubtedly it will happen, will raise their head. So this is the thing that happen will if both the parties are equal and you want to enter into a compromise because you think that continuous conflict will hamper the interest of both the parties, then they compromise. But that compromise is just a superficial resolution of conflict. Follett says integration is the most accepted method of resolving conflict, or a method which will not escalate the conflict situation, which will actually reduce the conflict situation. What it is? Now, we must interpret the conflict. Conflict is but natural. We must interpret why this conflict has happened, to dissect every part of the issue. And by dissecting every part of the issue, we try to find out which part we can resolve and which part we cannot resolve. So, in such a situation, uh, we try to facilitate the communication. we try to find out, we sit among ourselves and try to find out which part we can give up and which part we need to resolve, which is the most important issue, and the trivial issues may be resolved. And so we develop an attitude that this is the part of conflict with which we must live, and this is the part of conflict with which we must resolve. Like, we are trying to resolve the our conflict with many nations in terms of, what do you say, in terms of trade and cultural exchange, because we think the major issues cannot be resolved, like, between India and Pakistan. At times we have a better relation, but we do not talk about Kashmir, which is, no, which we do not want to resolve, and we focus on other areas like communication exchange, like the exchange of people, like, during Vajpayee's regime we had introduced a bus, and the Prime Minister himself went to use that bus to and go to Pakistan. Such a small measures we take up to develop the friendship, and we keep aside the potential conflicting issues, because that is over a particular territory which cannot be resolved unless and until there is a greater coordination among ourselves. So Follett says, if you want to resolve a issue, you can resolve if we develop uh, for you develop that attitude, that culture that welcomes uh, good faith, that encourage resolution of conflict, and that to the lowest level, and that agrees to enter into negotiation so that the conflict can be resolved. So this is how, integration is the best way of resolving uh, conflict. For this, we at the international level, you all know how do we resolve conflicts. In the constitution itself, we have the provision for zonal council, we have the provision for interstate council. So by that, we try to resolve the issues. We have also, in the Industrial Dispute Act, we have this conflict resolution methods like Whitley Council, which was first introduced in Great Britain. You must have read this in your personal administration paper. So all these organizations are there within the country, but at the international level also we have certain conflict resolution uh, organizations. Like, we keeping aside our bilateral disputes, we develop certain uh, regional issues on which we can cooperate regionally. That means, like, we have South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. We have this, you know, BRIC groups. We have this Quad group. We have this ASEAN group. Oil and petroleum exporting countries, they have also bilateral conflict, but they have come together for the natural resource which they have, that is oil. So they have formed an organization. So these network organizations help in resolving conflict. Conflict resolution is possible if, civil society organizations spread, If people participate in the process of resolution of conflict, if capacity building of both the parties are done, so they develop a tendency to resolve the conflict. So, mm, and also the state sometimes control the coordinating points at the behest of the state, that conflict resolution happens. Okay. uh, so negotiates at the international level, we do conflict resolution in terms of negotiation, in terms of mediation. Two countries are at war, like Ukraine and Russia, Israel and Palestine, North Korea, South Korea. So there, third country is mediating, on whom both the conflicting parties have trust. Then in that case, conflict resolution may happen to some extent. Arbitration means, you have some ar- you have some authority which will do the which will investigate and try to, which is considered as an independent person, impartial person. For judicial purposes, we name the person as amicus curiae, or for, we consider the person as a adjudicator, like the International Court of Justice, where nations appeal against each other, and International Court of Justice tries to resolve the issue through arbitration. Or we have river tribunals, where both the parties, both the states through which the river flows, they meet, or both the nations through which the river flows, they meet, and they sit together and discuss about the upstream and the downstream of the river, and try to resolve the issue. So the three ways through which international conflict is resolved, that is negotiation, mediation, and arbitration. Remember. Then you have, no, I am not going beyond your book. It is because this is distance education, and you can add anything to that, but I have to go by that, because you will be able to understand this. See, now come to the point of, basically, since ours is public administration, we will discuss about the conflict within the organization. Here I will make you recollect a scientific management theory. What is this scientific management theory? Scientific management theory was actually a theory of, you might not have thought in this manner. I consider it like this. Scientific management theory is a theory of conflict resolution. Why? Prior to the uh, uh, discover prior to the discovery of this theory, what you find is that there was no labor laws. International Labour Organization was established in the year 1920. There was no labor laws. What was the situation? Laborers were working in industries. Since there were no labor laws, the laborers did not want to do more work. because even if the industries they announced rewards for more work, laborers or workers did not do more work. It is called as soldiering in Frederick Winslow Taylor's theory. They thought if we do more work, then it will be the benchmark. Then the administration or the management will make that benchmark. If the workers do not work up to that level, then they will terminate the worker. So the workers always try to show that this is the level of their competency. Beyond that, there is no level. This is the highest level of their competency. Even if they can produce 10 pieces, they used to produce 5 pieces. And there was a unity among the workers because, uh, this is called informal organization. So, and the management, why it happened? The management always criticized the workers for lack of profit, for lack of production, for lack of productivity. Frederick Winslow Taylor, who was a worker, who also became the CEO of the organization, he could understand from the from the vantage point of the management and from the vantage point of the workers. He said when the workers come to the office or to the industry, it is the responsibility of the management to give the worker a task prescription. What work to do and which instrument is to be used to do the work. And how to know this? So the research is the responsibility, planning and research is the responsibility of the management. To find out the science of work is the responsibility of the management. To recruit the efficient worker is the through a scientific process is the responsibility of the management. So Frederick Winslow Taylor, for the first time, divided the work among the worker. He did a strong functional specialization. This is the work of the management. This is the work of the workers. No one should blame anyone like that. So you can consider scientific management theory as a method of conflict resolution, where you have distinct functional allocation, functional division of labor, and everybody will act according to the work assigned to him. After Winslow Taylor, we have humanism, new human relations theory of Elton Mayo, who said how to resolve the conflict. You can see all these theories as a method to resolve conflict. How to resolve the conflict between the management and the worker? Elton Mayo said, involve the workers in evolving policies. Ask the workers what they want. If you consult the workers, then you will be able to uh, get better policies, better execution of policies, because the workers have participated in the policy making process. Similar things were told by Chester Pannard and Herbert Simon. Zone of indifference and zone of acceptance. Both the thinkers, they said that do not make such legislations within the organizations which will not be accepted by the employees. If you want to, Herbert Simon said, if you want to introduce any new policy, before that, discuss with the employees and develop an attitude among them to accept the new policy. Chris Aguirre, who talked a lot about organizational development, he said he suggested about a method called T training. Where you develop an attitude in the employee to accept a particular policy or accept a particular work arrangement. Okay, so this is in this is there in your public administration. If you just look through the syllabus, you will be able to understand how conflict resolution is discussed by each and every thinker. Like, those who talked about theory X and theory Y, McGregor, he said, even Hajbaz, who talked about this motivation and hygiene theory, he said, what is more important for the worker is not the hygiene factors. The salary is not important. If you give less salary, then the worker will not join your organization. But if once the worker has joined the organization, the worker has accepted the terms and conditions of the employment. After that, what is required? The self esteem of the worker, the employee, should be satisfied. The employee should be given recognition for doing a good work. The employee should have freedom to express its views. So this is what is told by Herzberg in his motivation hygiene theory. Give enough space to the employee to express his views. There's freedom of expression. So this is the. So you just, I am just giving you suggestions that if you go through the all the thinkers, keeping this in mind, how they have addressed conflict resolution, you will be able to understand the intra organizational conflict resolution process. Inter-organizational conflict resolution process, I told you about it, that is negotiation, mediation, and arbitration. We have many such things. We have the G20, we have the G8, we have, we have certain international conventions like Kyoto Protocol, like Montreal Protocol, like for disaster management, we have the Sendai framework, the Hugo framework. We sit together, all nations, we agree to a certain point, and this is how the conflict resolution happens. If the nations are signatories to that convention, we bound ourselves by that international convention. So this is a way of, you can call it as conflict uh, resolution in that sense. So you can, while writing this answer, depending on what is asked in the question, you can use these things as examples to write your answer. Now, let me tell you about the Whitley Council. The Whitley Councils were first created in 1917 in the industrial field as a result of the recommendations of the committee presided over by Whitley, the then Speaker of House of Commons, as a grievance redressal mechanism. In 1919, the scheme was approved by civil services. The Whitley organization in the civil service consists of National Council, Departmental Council, District Office, and Ward committees. At every level, there is a conflict resolution machinery. By using that, the conflict between the employer and employee is resolved. So you can also cite this. So this is how conflict resolution is done. That it has been dealt in your study material. In the last unit, which is very, very important, that is ethical concerns in public administration. Now, you see, ethics is a difficult term to define. The meaning, nature, and scope of ethics have expanded in the course of time. As the technology is developing, you know, the scope of ethics is also expanding. If we have, should we use AI? The other day, I heard that even the judicial system is planning to use artificial intelligence. So, ethics is a very, very difficult term to define. For some, if you are um, if you are creating, if you are giving punishment to a under trial, you consider it as ethics. But some others will consider this as human rights violation or police atrocity. And finally, it happens that the under trial turns out to be uh, having no fault. It is found that the under trial has not committed any crime. Then how can we say that what had happened to the under trial is ethical? So ethics has, many connotations, but however, all the time we grapple with the word that is ethics. And ethic is integral to public administration because of the word public and the word administration. Administration has come from the word administeri, means to care for. Okay, to care for the public, to care for the people. So the word public itself signifies that the administrator should not work for particular interest. It should work for collective interest. So when the interest of many are involved, the interest of many are involved, you call it as uh, mm, you bring the notion of ethics into your mind. When the administration has excluded somebody, then you talk in terms of administrative accountability, which is also considered as ethics in public administration. If you find that any administrator has worked in particular interests, has done something to serve its own interest in official capacity, then also it is considered as unethical. Okay, I'm just coming. If you read the old text, which is quite relevant even today, that is Kautilya's Arthasastra, you will find that there Kautilya has written that cheating anyone for self interest is uh, cheating anyone for self interest is unethical. But cheating anyone for for public interest, that means for the sake of the nation, is ethical. So the meaning of ethics is different for a person. The meaning of ethics, or you can say the scope of ethics, is different for the nation. So this is how it is very complicated to understand it. But however, ethics is a system of accepted beliefs, mores, and values. If you accept this definition, then ethics, the concept of ethics, has a socio-cultural context. The value has a socio-cultural context. Keeping this in mind, Fredericks, Robert Dahl, Edward Wedner, all these people, those who gave us the ecological approach to public administration, all of them, they talked about, they concluded that administration of every country is unique in itself, because administration of any country is to be understood in a given socio cultural framework. So, therefore, I tell you that ethics is a system of accepted beliefs, mores, and values. It has come from the Latin word ethicus, that means character. Since the early 17th century, ethics has been accepted by the Europeans as the science of morals, the rules of conduct, and science of human duty. What human beings should do or should not do, what type of conduct they should show in society, and what is uh, in this context, what is moral and what is not moral. The Plato's Republic talks about justice. Plato writes justice and tries to explain it in a different context. Like he says, what is Plato's Republic? As you, those who have read political science must be knowing that Plato's Republic has been written in a dialogue form. Somebody says that justice lies in giving someone his due. Then the other person asks that if somebody is a mad person, has lost sense, and or quite angry, should you give a gun which is his? The person who is angry, he owns a gun, but it is with somebody else. So you are saying that justice means giving what is due to him. Will you give the gun to that person to kill someone? Then it is unethical. So however, what we find is that in Platonic Republic, justice has been defined in a very plural way, in a collective way. You should do for which you are best suited. If I am best suited to become a teacher, I should aspire to become a teacher. I should not think of being somebody else. That is what Platonic theory of justice thinks. So, for Aristotle, ethics was inspired by, you know, it is good for the person, it is also good for the society. That is ethics. Aristotle talked about like this. He defended slavery. Why? It is because it is good for the person who are owning the slave, and the system of slavery should be based on such values, that it is also good for the slave. That means the slave can develop his capability, his mental faculty under a master. Then only this is the type of slavery system he defended. If you come to the 18th century, Immanuel Kant, who makes the concept of duty central to morality. If you come to the utilitarians of 19th century, Jeremy Bentham and James Mill, who said, what is ethics? Ethics is the guiding principle of conduct. Great, utility lies in that thing. That is where you get greatest happiness of the greatest number. So, greatest happiness, the conduct which results in greatest happiness of the greatest number is ethics. So, if you just read these the writings of the theorists, you will find that ethics, they have defined ethics in different ways. And if we come to the neoliberal ideology about which we are talking, and we are in the hands of a neoliberal state, then what is ethics? Ethics which brings advantage to everyone, and gives freedom to all. So that is actually ethics. But however, if you keep on analyzing such thing, like John Rawls, who talked about justice, he said that ethics is doing good to the most disadvantageous person. So if you are making a public policy, that public policy is ethical, which thinks about, or that administrator is good, which thinks about the least advantaged person in the society while making the policy. So I hope you have a little sense of ethics now. Uh, Let us consider, no, we are not considered about how individuals behave in their uh, personal life. But if you talk about John Stuart Mill, when their actions are uh, affecting somebody else, then it is ethics. Then there the question of ethics come. So even the family, the household, is not free from this discourse on ethics. Like a father compelling the daughter to get married without her choice, you can call it as unethical. If the father is compelling the daughter who is not an adult to get married like child marriage, then it is also not ethical. So, uh, in the process, what you find is that no social institution, you can call the family as a private sphere, but that family is not a private sphere, no longer a private sphere, because it is taking away the freedom of a member of society who could have grown further and further. So today there is a consensus on this, that values of equity, justice, humanism, human rights, gender equality, and compassion. These are the uh, these are the parameters of ethics, you can say. These are ethical values you can say. So basically, these are also included within, within the concept of good governance introduced by the World Bank in 1992. Now, new public management is more concerned about administrative effectiveness. A new public administration is more concerned about ethical administration, because if you see the features of new public administration, you will say that new public administration gives a call to the scholars of public administration to accept, to do research on social change, to make your discipline relevant, to uh, think that how equity can be established in society, and and also new public admin talks that ethics should be understood in a particular perspective, or administrative administration should honor, should respect its socio political environment. In 1960s, John Kennedy, the American president, had said, "No responsibility of government is more fundamental than the responsibility of maintaining the higher standards of ethical behavior." Okay, so now we will. So, what you time when Max Weber gave us the ideal type of bureaucracy, Max Weber said that the rational legal authority is more ethical, more scientific, so uh, it should be a it is the inevitable, it is an essential element of all industrial societies. But however, in due course of time, Victor Thompson has said that bureaupathology, that means the failure of bureaucracy to make itself people friendly, to make itself user friendly, is actually was named as bureaupathology by Victor Thompson. Harold Lasky, Carl Frederick, Warren Bennis all have talked about the negative aspects of bureaucracy, that is the behavioral aspect of bureaucracy, which result in nepotism, corruption, and a very very narrow, unethical administrative behavior. So now let us come to how uh, the historical, from where we have started this idea of getting into or discussing more about ethical aspect of public administration. Basically it goes back to the American society, where an American society is considered as a very scientific, open and democratic society, because this is a society which decided to come together to get rid of the imperialistic rule. Democracy or federalism has not been imposed on them. It is a voluntary federation. It came together. We will, each and every state of America, like ours is Odisha and Gujarat and all, they have their own citizenship, they have their own constitution, and they also honor the American Constitution, because that is how they can remain together. In American society accepted a very, very negative system, that is spoil system. And this spoil system, uh, they accepted is as natural because American President Andrew Jackson, long back, in 18th century, when the American state was created, uh, he gave a statement: "To victor belong the spoils." So accordingly, the victorious party recruited those persons who had helped the president in winning the election to get the coveted posts in government. That also happens in our country also, where some leaders are made the chairman of such and such commissions or such and such committees, or like that. In 1881, President James Garfield was assassinated for the spoil system. Since then, immediately in 1883, the US Civil Service Commission was set up, and that was the first major step in this direction to ensure ethics in public administration. But however, these corrupt methods you will find everywhere, like uh, the monarchical rulers, the Mughal emperors, used a system like boxes, which is also an unethical practice which hampers the self-esteem of the worker, but it continues even today. If you go to the train, you find the employees who are serving you food, they come and ask for boxes. If you go to a hotel, even if they do not ask, the silent, you give the boxes. So all these things happen. So in a way, though it is an unethical practice in an administration, it has been uh, accepted. So this, so uh, ethics is to be, so what I want to say is that ethics is to be understood in a particular socio-cultural context, in a political context, in a legal judicial context. So when you are talking about ethics, you have, if you compile whatever I have said, you have the principle of legality and rationality. What is not rational is not ethical. What is not legal is not ethical. You have the principle of responsibility. This is the responsibility of the administrator. If he or she is not doing, then it is non-ethical. This is the responsibility of the administrator. If he has not done it, if there is some exclusion error in distributing, in giving ration cards, then in that case, the concerned official should be made accountable for that exclusion errors. Then this is ethical. Then, if you have been assigned some work, you should be committed to that work. So commitment to work is ethical. Therefore, we say work is worship. Doing the work in the best way, the new Taylorism, doing the work in the best way, that is the, even if it is official work, what we see, we misuse government property. If you go to any government office, it is very dirty. Why? because we do not consider that as ours. So this is a way. We do not consider the work as our own, or as if this work belonged to us. So maximum of excellence is also uh, to be understood as ethical. It is possible when the employee feels that there is a fusion of individual interest and individual interest, collective interest, and organizational interest. It must suit your purpose. It must suit the purpose or the interest of your community, and it must suit the goals of the organization. Then only, i- if there is fusion of these three, the social goal, the individual goal, and the organizational goal, then a person thinks of uh, getting the work done in the best possible way, that is the maximum uh, excellence. Also, sometimes if you think that uh, somebody is telling some wrong thing, maybe your boss, if you show your resistance to that, that is also ethical. If you are uh, showing responsiveness to something, like you are trying to help somebody, that is also ethical. If you are doing something in national interest, you consider this as public interest, that is also ethical. Like how you see the foreign minister is defending again and again in international platforms that buying oil from a Russian country, sorry, buying oil from Russia, whom the world, the international great powers consider as an invader, who has invaded Ukraine, is nothing wrong, because we have done it in our interest, which will be beneficial for our people. So now sometimes you defend your activity as ethical, the others may consider it as unethical.
Ma'am.
So in 1984, American Society for Public Administration, which has played a phenomenal role in the development of the content of public administration, the development of the discipline, the development of the subject matter of public administration, they have given us a code of conduct for administrators, and which was revised in 1994. It was something, the exercise of discretionary authority to promote public interest, recognition and support to the public's right to know, exercise of compassion, benevolence, fairness, and optimism, prevention of all forms of mismanagement of public funds, protection of constitutional principles of equality, fairness, responsiveness, and due process in protecting citizens' rights, maintenance of truthfulness and honesty, guarding jealously against conflict of interest, means nepotism, improper use of official capacity, misuse of public resources, and acceptance of gifts for doing official work. establishment of procedures that promote ethical behavior and hold individuals and organizations accountable for their uh, work. Now, basically, we are talking about, we are more concerned about ethics in public administration. So, you can just say that today we consider ethics as effectiveness in administration, efficiency in administration, compassion in administration, openness in administration. We also call it as unethical because we consider that uh, officials have a tendency of not disclosing things. So openness in administration, we call these as, you know, uh, ethical practices. So therefore, let us, that is there in your study material. So what are the obstacles to ethics in public administration? Basically, though we have introduced right to information in our country and other countries also, they have also adopted the same way. Administrators do not easily part with information and are too keen to let their citadels remain impregnable. That means, though they are also citizens, at times they also use the Right to Information Act. I'm talking about India. Though the administrators are citizens, at times they use RTI for their own requirement, own benefit. But when they are responding to an RTI application, they find it, they do not easily part with such information. They just, you know, they just give a superficial answer, uh, that ସାପ ମରିବନି କି ବାଡ଼ି ଭାଙ୍ଗିବନି ସେଇ ନ୍ୟାୟରେ, so they are just giving, they are telling, the, all of you have must have experienced that we answer to the RTI applications in a very very superficial way, because we find it an unnecessary hazard of the war sector, unnecessary hazard of one's profession. Second obstacle to ethical behavior is when you employ permanent employees, when you regular employees, it is very, they develop some type of arrogance, they develop some type of, uh, it is very difficult to get ethical behavior from them. Massive expansion of bureaucracy has also become an obstacle to ensure ethics in administration. Now, when you have, what is the problem now? We have many agencies which are involved in ensuring ethics in administration, like CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, Central Vigilance Commission, state loco ayuktas, state vigilance bodies, anti-corruption departments. There is no coordination among all these bodies which ensure ethics in administration. Many times, these bodies are accused of being instruments in the hands of the ruling party to be used against those who do not toe their line. So, this understanding, you know, encourages you to be unethical, to be to go against the ethical behavior, because you think that no, the other party is unethical, so you, if you become unethical, it is, there is no harm in it. Excessive control also sometimes harm ethics in behavior, because we have a tendency to provide protection to civil servants. We, in the beginning of the making of the constitution, we thought the civil servants, if they are not protected, they will not be able to do the work without any fear and fervor. But however, that has developed some type of different behavior in civil servants. Misinterpretation of role and obligation. Civil servants many a times think that they are in doing in public interest, but their decisions go against public interest. And the orthodox loyalty of the civil servants to their boss, because in India we do not have a habit of disobeying the boss. We usually express our loyalty to the boss. So our loyalty to the boss is, uh, you know, sometimes keeps us away from ethical standards. So these are the ways by which we find it difficult to ensure ethics in administration, sometimes even new public management. Now, a counter view is like that. New public management, since it focuses on efficiency and economy, the and effectivity. That means you are giving more importance on output, sorry, on outcome, performance, result, that may encourage the administrator to adopt on ethical measures. That means you say that how much, uh, in how many days your project has been completed. Initially, you did not make a proper survey and you said that the project will be completed in 6 months. You found that finally the project is not ready by the end of fifth month. That is, even one fourth of the project has not been completed. So in 1 month you try to complete the project, thus to show to your boss that yes, target has been achieved. Then the work is substandard, because the work that has been left uncompleted now is, it will take much longer time, but you are trying to complete it within 1 month or maybe 20 days. So that work, the quality of the work hampers. You know, the this is you can say, uh, in a way, this new public management concept, count the those who are critical of the new public management concept, they say that they think that sometimes new public management concept is also adopting certain, also resulting in certain unethical behavior. So this is how you have to go through your study material, not to get panicked by a huge book, because I have already told you, if you just understand the relationship between state, society, and public administration, you will be able to understand the important things in this. And the most important concept in state society public administration is the new public management concept, new public management approach, which is there in your syllabus at different places. But you have to understand first that it is the society. If you consider state is a result of evolution, so it is the society which gradually gained consciousness and created the state, not intentionally, as Hobbes Locke Rousseau has said, not as a result of contract, but it's a gradual process of consciousness. Like a very fine example will make you understand. If you make a study of all senior citizens, what do you find? Most of the senior citizen, most of the time, enjoys listening to bhajans. If you make a study of the uh, youngsters, what you find? Most of the youngsters enjoy listening to other type of musics. I mean, songs, uh, not bhajans, but other songs. Why did I give this example? It is because uh, gradually, when you grow with your age, you have already passed through your life, you have gained consciousness in different aspects, so you have experienced life. So if you listen to a love song that doesn't make you any, that is not a new understanding for you, because you have also experienced those things in your life. So what you like is in a different sense because you like bhajans now. So similarly, the state has is a result of evolution. Unconsciously people have developed a comfortable living for themselves because uh, human beings are rational, they have wisdom, they want a comfortable living. Aristotle, the father of political science, said that state originated in the bare needs of life, that is production and reproduction, and continues to exist for the sake of good life. So family can also be called as the micro picture of a state, where if it is a patriarchal family, then the father is the authority. If it is a matriarchal family, then the mother is the authority. And whatever it is, there in the family, you learn to express your commitment, your loyalty to the authority, and it is a type of habitual obedience. And the similar authority you are creating for living together, that is the state. And to maintain order and discipline, you are creating a an arrangement, power arrangement, you can say, work arrangement, you can say. It is administration. So you cannot understand administration without understanding the nature of the state. Nature of administration will be different if then if it is a communistic state, if it is a capitalistic state, if it is a socialistic state. The nature of administration between two communistic states will be different as per the nature of society. Therefore, communism in Soviet Union was different. The nature of communistic state, that is the administration, was different in Soviet Union, was different in China. So gradually, Mao Zedong and the Soviet leaders, they developed difference of opinion. So this is how you can understand the things that, even if we all owe our loyalty to the Constitution, we all love our Constitution, but we interpret the Constitution in different ways because we have understood life in different socio political environment. So, therefore, you can never understand administration or state without understanding the different dimensions of society and different nuances of human relationship in a society. So, this is how we have completed MPA 011. Now, this is the last class. If you have any query, you are to ask. Any question?
Ma'am, I have one question. I have two questions actually.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, yes. Tell me.
Uh, Ma'am, in current scenario, like we are talking about the unethical practice and ethical practice. So, can we use electoral bond as an example of unethical practice?
If you understand a fair democracy, then electoral bond is an ethical practice. If you relate electoral bond with the benefits that the different corporate sectors have gained, if you relate these two, then it is unethical. If you do not relate these two, then it is ethical in the sense that the state has not uh, the state has not introduced any law to check it. The state is not funding any political party. State is the state has not put a limit how much donation a party can take. So it is as per the maxims of rules and regulations. Law. How can we tell it as unethical? But what is now, the point that the Supreme Court is making, the voter has every right to know where from the donation you have got, how much donation you have got. At this if you are hiding, it is unethical. This is the main point. If you are not able to establish that such and such corporate sector gave this much amount of money and for in return have got this project, then it is if you can establish it, then it is unethical, because giving the project in public interest and you are taking money, the electoral bond, for private interest, that is the interest of a particular group, that is a political party, it is unethical. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I have one more question
How
actually.
do we look at this, from which vantage point, from which standpoint we are analyzing the issue?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am. Ma'am, I have one more question. Ma'am, can you explain about arbitration and conflict resolution
Yes,
again?
arbitration and conflict resolution. I see. If two, Mahanadi River, we have conflict with Chhattisgarh. So a river tribunal was established where our case will be discussed. In the constitution itself, I just do not remember, it's something around 274 or something, article 274 or something. There is a provision for interstate council. I'm not sure about the article. There is a provision of interstate council. What is the purpose of this interstate council? to resolve the issue that is there, that has cropped up between two states, two federal units. We have zonal council. There we discuss where the different states of a particular zone in our country can coordinate and integrate. So arbitration, you see, we go to the International Court of Justice. Suppose, uh, mm, suppose Sri Lanka has undertaken some measures, like Sri Lanka has undertaken for example, nuclear test on sea. We will raise our objection that testing of the nuclear testing on sea will affect the population in our coastal population. We tried to resolve the issue bilaterally. It did not. We could not become successful. Then what is the alternative? We will take the issue to the International Court of Justice, whom both of us accept as the arbitrator. This is arbitration. Whitley Council is just like that, where we try to resolve the issue. We have such type of labor tribunal where we try to resolve the issue between the employer and employee. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other question?
ମ୍ୟାଡାମ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ନମ୍ବର ମିଳିପାରିବ କି କିଛି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଡାଉଟ୍ ରହିଲା ପଚାରି ହବ ଆପଣଙ୍କର?
Yes, note down my number 94380
9438013946.
13946.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, no queries. So, should we wind up the class?
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, where can you get the recording of all these classes?
I don't know. You have to talk to your regional center. I have no idea.
Yeah.
You have to contact your regional center.
Okay.
I am not a faculty of your regional center. I am invited